Hi there, and welcome back to the third lesson in this section on planning for growth in the Grow Your Own Marketing Strategy course. So what are we going to go through over the next 10 or 15 minutes? This is, I'm going to show you a way that I go about creating a performance management tool, or a performance management record. So how I do it, I do this before buying a comprehensive tool, or when I'm working with clients before they go and buy the latest whiz-bang tool for doing this sort of thing and integrating all their marketing, etc. I take them through an exercise and a trial exercise that they run for a while before they decide which one they're going to purchase. Now there are many ways to do this, and if you have alternatives, we would love to hear about them in the course news feed. But so I'm just going to show you how I do it. And the aim of this is to enable you to do a basic Excel build to get you started. So you're going to build your first performance management tool in Excel before you go and spend a lot of money and heartache on buying a comprehensive system. So before you start, there's a couple of things that you need to really work with. You need to understand what your general business aims are. Okay, so is that increase in units sold, or better marketing return on investment, or perceived market leader, or become a perceived market leader, etc. And your business aims will adjust, because sometimes you might be an existing business that's been going for some time and you want to look towards selling the business at some point. At which point your target audience for the sale of the business, for example, might be people who want to buy market share. At which point your business aim would be to get market share up. Then decide on what your general marketing aims are to meet that business aim, and then select the indicative KPIs that you will need to reflect both those aims. In essence, what we're talking about here is choose the funnels that you are going to measure, whether you measure all of them or a combination of all of them or some, etc. Because remember that which gets measured gets done. When you're producing a system like I'm going to show you, because you're doing it sort of hand cranking it, you might not want to use all your funnels. You might have 50 or 60 funnels running at any one time. And if you're a small business with a small amount of employee resource, then you might want to simplify it slightly. Anyway, let's crack on. So as I say, make it really simple to start with. So pick a spreadsheet where you have got a number of funnels running already. So the sort of things that you've already produced in this section so far. But what you're going to do then is you're going to add layers of complexity one at a time. So in this case, this is an email-based funnel. And the complexity that we've added here, as you can see, we've got forecast and actual. So I would be recording the actual performance of email sent, opens, all that sort of stuff. And in this particular case, we had built in the plan, we had built a forecast. So I build a spreadsheet to start off with just those two involved. And I get the entire column working before I then add another layer of complexity. Now we're adding, I suggest that you add more layers, but one at a time. And in this case, you can see the forecast and actual columns there, but we've added to the left of that a previous week actual. And then we started getting a little bit more clever. And this is sort of the crux of what we're trying to get at here, is you want to make your spreadsheet illustrate to you percentage differences and change. And so in this particular example, we wanted to know the percentage difference on forecast and the percentage difference on the previous week. This was being done weekly, as you see, 19th of May, 26th of May, and so on. And what we've done here is we've put a very similar formula, a very simple formula, into the Excel sheets, into those cells, that if the percentage difference on forecast, for example, was greater than 0, then it turned green, or if it was less than 0, it turned red, or if it was 0 and less than 0, it turned red. And as a consequence, what you're actually then doing is you're building a splash glance page that you can see very quickly how the performance of what is going on today, or this week, or whatever the period that you're recalling it over. And if we stretch that out over a length of time, we can then begin to see this is actually just for 1 month, this particular email funnel in that particular month. And you can see by putting those colors in, it does a number of things for me. The first thing is that I get a splash page where I can pick out the trends. So I can see that in the very left-hand one, there's a lot of red, and then it turns to a green. And if you think back to when the very first exercise that we did, we were looking at the flash to bang time, how long it took for a customer to move through certain stages of the customer journey. Remember, it ended up at 28 weeks, and the client originally thought it was going to be about 12 weeks. Well, if you understand that, you can then begin to see that if I have red in week 1 and I expect it to be 4 weeks, or let's say in this case, I expect it to be 1 week for it to get into the next stage. That in fact, if something's red in week 1, it's probably going to be the following week. It's going to be red in that in week 2 in that second stage. So if it's red in the first stage in week 1, then you're going to get a red in the second stage in week 2, and a red in the third stage in week 3, all the way through. So the first thing is that you can start picking out trends, or you can start forecasting. So you can start saying, well, if my flash to bang time, my macro conversion is 5 weeks, and I have a bad week in week 1, then I know that this particular funnel is going to deliver badly in week 5. The second thing that it can do is, as I say, it can monitor your general performance. So again, I've used this example because you can see in the very left-hand week, in week 1 in this case, or whatever it was in May, that there's a lot of red in that one. But because the team worked on it, they got general improvement over a 5-week period, so that in the 5th week, actually they had cleaned it up significantly, and the funnel was then beginning to operate properly, or operate well. And so on the very right-hand side, you see there's a lot more red than green. Whereas in the very left-hand side, there's a lot more, in the very right-hand side, there's a lot more green than red. And in the very left-hand side, there's a lot more red than green. And now, remember, that's actually just for one funnel in one sales cycle period. But you can then start adding multiple funnels and multiple sheets that are summarized in a single splash page. So you might, for example, have where you have your Excel spreadsheet for where you have each of your email funnels, and then you have each of your Facebook funnels, and each of your LinkedIn funnels, and each of your snail mail funnels, and they are feeding into a general providing stats into a general business performance funnel. And I do a lot of mentoring work with businesses that want to take themselves from roughly £500,000 turnover to between £5 and £10 million turnover. And this is an absolutely classic exercise that we get the CEOs to put together, because this allows the CEO to monitor his business as of Monday morning on how the business is performing throughout. So the entire funnel might start off with an advertising campaign in Facebook, but it might actually finish off where the second moment of truth is the customer services element. And as a consequence, you can which is a reflection, an indicative data on the performance of the product and the business itself. It means that the CEO has a splash page that he can see, or she can see, exactly how the business is performing right now. And if there is a problem, it hops up in red. So rather than having to constantly assess, go around and check the business every Monday morning to see it's all going well, he can look at his stats and he can automatically pick out the red areas that require his or her attention to start off with. So what this does really is it allows you to visually monitor very easily the state of the funnels that you're looking at, or the business that you're running. And that then also allows you to model and understand long-term consequences, which then allows you to make very accurate forecasting. and that has huge implications. If your forecasting is accurate, then you can be deciding what budgets are going to come forward. It means that your planning for growth is sustained and measurable. It means that you are reducing the fastballs, because you're taking the unknowns out of the business going forward. Again, a very good example of this is we set this up for one business, and we ran it for 4 or 5 months, and went back to see the customer later, and he said, "Oh no, it's all been a disaster. My sales have fallen through the floor and all that sort of stuff, and I've actually had to change staff around and move marketing staff into to have them actually selling on the phone and all that sort of stuff." And we said, well, hang on a second, how come, what went wrong? He said, "Oh, I don't know." And actually, when you go back and look at it, the fact was that 2 weeks after we'd left them, they had stopped maintaining this, and as a consequence, they had stopped checking their KPIs on a Monday morning. And it was one quite simple problem that, because it hadn't been addressed at the time, began to snowball and snowball and snowball. If they picked it up at the start over a 6-week sales cycle, or an 8-week sales cycle, they were actually, if they picked it up at the start, then in fact they would have addressed it at the start. And because all this is linear progression, but in fact actually what was turned out to be a very bad month where everybody was in a mad panic would have been probably quite a reasonable month, and the growth would have continued. And because he took his marketing staff off in that month, that in fact actually it seriously affected the business for the next 8 weeks and so on, because they weren't getting the leads, and you see how it goes. So this whole plan is about creating accurate forecasting, but having to hand crank it. Now, there are specialist tools out there that will help you do it, but I strongly suggest that you start in Excel or any spreadsheet system that you already use, with the Google Sheets, etc. And the reason being is that it means that you can build a system easily at very little cost that reflects your business requirements. Because when you really understand what KPIs you want to measure and what the effect they have on each other, etc., then you can go and find the right tool that suits your business. Now, there's lots of them out there. There's ClickFunnels, Marketo, HubSpot, Salesforce, all those sort of guys out there. But I promise you, the people that sell you those pieces of kit will have made assumptions about how your business runs. And when they first set it up, it'll be a pain in the ass. It won't work, and you won't know whether it's because your sales funnels aren't working, or you're getting the wrong information, or in fact your team is performing properly, but it's the data is getting lost in a system that you don't understand. So build in an Excel first, understand what you need, and then go and find the software that you require, and then using the professional that's going to install it, you have all the information you need to brief them properly, so they build the system specifically for you. It will also probably save you a lot of money in the long run, because A, you're not paying those usage fees whilst you're using Excel, but also it means that you don't end up buying all the bells and whistles in that they might try and sell you, because you can say right from the start, I have no need of that, and I have no need of that, rather than going, oh, well, actually that might be useful, and it turning out later on that it wasn't. You have a very, very tight specification of what you actually need. Okay, that was slightly off the wall, but what I'd like you to do is create your first simple funnel performance record in Excel or whatever, Google Sheets or whatever you want to use. If you want to use dummy data or a funnel that you've already created in lesson 1 of the section, but do a column for week 1 and a column for week 2, or month 2, or month 1 and month 2, and then add that percentage difference, and make the percentage difference column, and make that column turn red or green automatically based on the KPI that you're selecting. Now, that might sound a bit difficult if you're not that au fait with Excel. That's okay. There's lots and lots and lots of very short videos out there that do it. And the hint in this one is that to make that turn red or green, etc., is just using conditional formatting in Excel. And as I say, YouTube has lots of videos on this, and there is an example link there. And as always, we say share your work by creating a post in the course newsfeed, because the feedback you get will be fantastic. And also, we'd like to hear how other ways that you might do it, and how that you might already be using in your business. So thank you very much for joining us in that lesson. We'll see you in the next lesson, which is the final lesson of this section, where we are going to do a summary of section 4. Look forward to seeing you in the newsfeed, and I look forward to seeing you in that next lesson. Thank you very much.